Dum-da-da-da-da-da-da. Dum. Dee. I suppose they've each got Tweedle written at the back.
If you think we're waxworks, you ought to pay, you know. Waxworks weren't made to be looked at for nothing. No how.
Contrariwise, if you think we're alive, you ought to speak.
I'm sure I'm very sorry.
I know what you're thinking, but it isn't so. No how.
Contrariwise, if it was so, it might be. And if it were so, it would be. But as it isn't, it ain't. That's logic.
I was thinking, which is the road out of the wood? It's getting very dark. Would you tell me, please? First boy.
No how.
Next boy.
Contrariwise.
You've been wrong. The first thing in a visit is to say how do you do and shake hands. Here we go round the Bobby brush, the Bobby brush, the Bobby brush. Here we go round the Bobby brush, the cold and frosty morning. Here we go round the Bobby brush, the Bobby brush, the Bobby brush. Here we go round the Bobby brush, the cold and frosty morning. 4 times round is enough for one dance.
I hope you're not much tired.
No how, and thank you very much for asking.
So much obliged. You like poetry?
Yes, pretty well. Some poetry. Which is the road out of the wood?
What shall I repeat for her?
The walrus and the carpenter is the longest.
The sun was shining on the
This
sea.
is very long. Would you mind telling me first which road I might...
The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright, and this was odd because it was the middle of the night. The walrus and the carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand.
If only this were cleared away.
They said,
It would be grand.
Oh, oysters, come and walk with us.
the walrus did beseech.
A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each.
So 4 young oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd because, you know, they hadn't any feet. 4 other oysters followed them, and then another 4. And thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock conveniently low, and all the little oysters stood and waited in a row.
The time has come
The walrus said,
to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings.
Wait a bit.
the oysters cried.
Before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath and all of us are fat. No hurry.
Said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that.
A loaf of
The
bread
walrus said,
is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now, if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed.
But not on us.
the oysters cried, turning a little blue.
After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do. The night is fine.
The walrus said,
Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are very nice.
The carpenter said nothing but,
Cut us another slice. I wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice. It seems a
the
shame
walrus said,
to play them such a trick after we brought them out so far and made them trot so quick.
the carpenter said nothing but,
The butter spread so thick.
I weep for you.
the walrus
I
said.
deeply sympathize.
With sobs and tears he counted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes.
Oh, oysters,
Said the carpenter.
You've had a pleasant run.
shall we be trotting home again?
But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd because
They'd eaten everyone.
I like the walrus best because you see he was at least a little sorry for the poor oysters.
he ate more than the carpenter, though. You see, he held his handkerchief in front so that the carpenter couldn't see how many he took. Contrariwise.
Then I like the carpenter best if he ate less than the walrus did.
He ate as many as he could get.
They were both very unpleasant characters. Are there any lions or tigers about here?
It's only the Red King snoring. Come and look at him.
Isn't he a lovely sight? Fit to snore his head off.
He's dreaming now. And what do you think he's dreaming of?
Nobody can guess that.
Why, about you? And if he left off dreaming about you, where do you suppose you'd be?
Where I am now, of course.
Not you! You'd be nowhere! Why, you're only a sort of thing in his dream!
If that there king was to wake, you'd go out, bang, just like a candle.
No, I shouldn't. And besides, if I'm just a thing in his dream, what are you, I should like to know?
Ditto!
Ditto, ditto!
You'll be waking him, I'm afraid, with all the noise you're making.
It's no use you're talking about waking him when you're only one of the things in his dream. You know very well you're not real.
I am real.
You won't get a bit realer by crying. There's nothing to cry about.
If I wasn't real, I shouldn't be able to cry. At any rate, I'd better be getting out of this wood, for really it's coming on very dark. Do you think it will rain?
I don't think it will. At least not under here, nohow. Do you see that?
It's only a rattle. Not a rattlesnake, you know. Only an old rattle, quite old and broken.
I knew it was. It's spoilt, of course.
You needn't get so angry over an old rattle.
It isn't old. It's new, I tell you. I bought it yesterday. My nice new rattle. Of course you agree to have a battle.
I suppose so. Only I don't care about going on long. I happen to have a headache.
I'll have the sword. You can have the umbrella. It's quite as sharp. Only we'd better make it quick. It's getting dark as it can.
And darker